Good morning, Philip. How you doing?
Hello there. Good morning to you and all of your listeners.
Excellent. We're here at Metropolitan. We're all excited about the upcoming Barcelona International Community Day, and
Yeah.
I wanted to introduce you and review some of your art. We're hoping to describe, the impact of Barcelona on art, and for all the Metropolitan, I guess, audience. We're always trying to add value to the cultural experience, and just being here an expat and identifying those who are leaders as expats here and talking about their journeys and their studies. Would you mind if you could talking a little bit about yourself when you came to Barcelona?
Sure. I'll do like a little incision. I wouldn't consider myself a leader in any particular sense, but as an artist and as a teacher, as a professor in two universities, I've obviously had some slight influence on a couple generations of students that have come out of the schools where I teach, which are ANA and BAL. My journey, well, I got here in 1988. So I had finished my master's in School of Visual Arts in New York as an illustration master, MFA. And I'd kind of done like 7 years of study between undergraduate and graduate. And it just felt like to me, it was time to kind of take a long trip, which I thought was going to be 1 year and which has now been 35. So with two daughters on the way, on the journey. When I first got here, I had hair. I was thin, and I was pretty poor, which that hasn't changed. But otherwise, a lot of things have changed as Barcelona has also changed.
Okay, what was your first impression of this city from an artistic and cultural standpoint?
First impression. Well, I came to Barcelona like 3 or 4. This is, obviously we're talking 1988. So this is pre-internet, pre-cell phone, pre-fax, pre-computer, basically. I mean, my first computer was,
Pre-Olympics.
yeah, and definitely pre-Olympic, which was one of the reasons why I decided to stay. So when I got here, the first trip in '88, I was just a tourist enjoying myself. I had some mutual friends that from New York who had friends that were here, and I got in contact with them. But I mean, in those days, you got in contact with people by calling them on the phone or writing a letter. So I know those things are two very
What?
foreign concepts for a lot of people these days. But I happened to get really lucky, and a lot of these people were really, really sweet people, really nice people, very intelligent people that spoke English, because at that time I didn't speak any Spanish or Catalan. When I could count to 10, I could say please and thank you, and I could ask for a beer. So it was like 10 cervezas, por favor, gracias. No? And so it was like, for me, it was like a tough time. I mean, I had fun on the first trip, but I came back like 4 times. And by the fourth time I came, to meet up with friends that were coming from the States in order to travel or whatever. By the fourth time I came, I realized, this is I had planned to go back to London and work as an illustrator there. And I'd gotten some freelance jobs for magazines and newspapers. So that kind of felt comfortable. And what happened is that when I got to the fourth time in Barcelona, I mean, we're talking 1988. So this is pre-Olympics. You've got artists like Mariscal that's designed Kobe, the Olympic mascot. You've got Peret, who's like literally covering the Las Obras de la Plaza España with a lona that was like as big as a building. And these are things that in New York you just you couldn't do. You didn't get those kind of jobs. I mean, New York, you were like the illustrator that specialized in strawberries, and you would get amazing amounts of money for painting the most incredible strawberry. But if you tried to paint a cat, they wouldn't hire you. So for me, it was, wow, this is just so liberating. I mean, if you can convince somebody to let you do it, you'll get a lot less money than you get in New York, but you'll have a lot more fun.
Well, that introduces the next question. Like, how has your art transformed then? Since
well, I mean, when I first got here, my illustration work especially was kind of dark. It was very conceptual. It had a lot to do with like artists like David Sally or Jasper Johns, American, either neo-expressionists or pop artists, or pre-pop. So, it had a lot of things to do with like wordplay. So I would paint words into the painting that had something to do with the image that was represented, but maybe not directly connected. So it was pretty intellectual, let's say. And I think one of the things that happened to me here is that I started to realize that I actually just kind of really enjoyed painting everyday life. So it's like, just painting the Italian coffee machine that I would make in the morning in order to make a coffee was like something that seemed like much more vital and interesting to me than these kind of very intellectual games or conceptual games that I was doing with a lot of my illustration work at that time. So I would say that, in one of the things that happened is that I got freed. I discovered color again. I started to like realize that, I actually enjoy using color. And that's probably been one of the main staples of my work ever since.
Okay. And so can you identify some of the past or contemporary artists that inspire you here in Barcelona or around the world?
Well, I mean, I would say that, my work is kind of strange because I don't mind showing my influences. There's a lot of artists that kind of like it's vetoed to ever show like you were influenced by something. I'm actually kind of the reverse. So I would say, I kind of do a mix of Quattrocento Italiano, so it's like the Italian Renaissance, Paris in the 1920s, so it's Cubism, post-Cubism, Art Deco, so Picasso, Leger, Gris, Braque, and then American pop art from like the from the late 50s to the mid 60s. So, it's like pop or pre-pop. So it's Larry Rivers, Jasper Johns, Robert Rauschenberg, Klaus Oldenburg, and then, people like Tom Wesselman or even Andy Warhol sometimes. So it's like, that whole kind of idea of mixing things together to see what's going to happen is a little bit like part of what I do within my painting work, especially the work as I do as a fine artist. So, and then also there's like in general, I try to, there's like my work is fairly easy to read on the surface. So it seems like, oh, okay, that's a painting of two people that are making dinner, but then when you actually start to look at it, you say, oh, but what's that goldfish doing there? And what does that have to do with what she's painting? And why is the guy cutting up an octopus while the goldfish is on the edge of the table about to fall off? So, I mean, there's a lot of things to do about, intemporal things. So it's about things that are everyday life, but also about, kind of historical things. So what inspires you most about Barcelona? I'm like jumping all over your questions, Victor. I'm sorry.
No problem. So, I mean, one of the questions that we get here a lot for people who want to come visit, or for those of us who live here and have family that love art, but there's so much to see and to avoid choice paralysis. So what would you suggest would be a perfect one-day itinerary or a two-day itinerary people come to visit?
Okay. This is always like a kind of complicated question because Barcelona is not Madrid. So we don't have the Prado, we don't have the Thyssen, we don't have the Reina Sofia. So it's like those big boom impact museums we don't have. The Museo Nacional is a nice big museum, which is also doable. It doesn't have a whole bunch of major masterpieces, but it has some quirky things that are interesting, like including like Salvador Dali's early painting of his father, where you really see like the fear and hatred that he has for his father,
Forgive me, you're referring to MNAC?
MNAC, yeah, Museo Nacional de Arte Catalunya.
They had the permanent, I think, Gothic.
The permanent collection, which is, they have the best romantic art collection of the world, some of the paintings that influenced Miró, influenced people like Ricardo Cavolo, an artist that's working contemporarily. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's interesting in that museum, even though it's not the Prado or the Louvre or the Uffizi, And then I would say, well, I mean, you got the Joan Miró Foundation, you got the Tapias Foundation, you got the Picasso Museum, which actually has some really interesting work. I mean, Picasso Museum is not as good as the Picasso Museum of Paris, but it's got like all the things that Paris doesn't have. So it has like all the work that he created before he was 20, and then like a lot of the major work that he created after he was 70. So that those are work that, like, especially the work for like the Meninas that after 70, where people used to like kind of like look down on. Oh, this is Picasso. He's like at the end of his powers. But the truth is, it's like, this is a 70-year-old guy who's painting, huge paintings every single day and doing innovative work every time he gets in front of a canvas. So he was a real jerk in a lot of ways. As a human being, he was an asshole. But as an artist, he was quite incredible. So.
Okay. And for those of us who'd like to be patrons of the art, any tips on how to acquire a piece of art?
Well, I would say, first of all, I'm going to do like a blatant plug. And I would say, go to my gallery, the gallery where I exhibit, which is Galeria Jordi Barnadas in Consejo de Ciento between Paseo de Gracia y Rambla Catalunya. So it's completely centrally located. Apart from representing me, he represents a lot of really interesting young and mid-aged contemporary artists here from Catalonia and from other parts of the world, especially figurative work. And he's doing a really good, he and his team, Sylvia and Monica, they do a really, really good job of not just showing artwork, but also like talking about it, informing about it. They're very relaxed. I mean, a lot of times people get really scared to go into art galleries because they think, oh, it's too snobby, it's snooty. They're not going to say anything to me. Just go in. Go in and take a look. There's a lot of really, I would say, do the art gallery scene, which a lot of them are on that strip between Consejo de Ciento, Balmes, Paseo de Gracia. There's a lot of galleries there that are worth seeing. There's also other galleries that are worth seeing in other places like Trafalgar. But I mean, go in, take a look. You see what you like, see what you don't like. Obviously, a lot of work is getting sold nowadays online, especially through Instagram. A lot of that work is prints, so it's like, that's an easy way to get I mean, I do, there are prints of my work that I do either in silkscreen or as giclées. The giclées nowadays, I'm actually like hand touching or retouching each one so that they're all kind of unique. So they're like individual pieces. So, and those are, very reasonably priced. So, I mean, the idea is a little bit that, you don't have to spend a lot of money to enjoy artwork in your life. And I think that's one of the things that people should remember, that art is something that adds something to your life. In the same way that music adds something to your life and literature adds something to your life, art also adds something to your life. And to have it on a daily basis, on your wall, wherever, in your kitchen, your bathroom, in your bedroom, whatever, there's something about having a contact with a piece that you decided that you wanted, that or somebody gave to you that you like, that's important. It's one of those things that adds value to your everyday life.
Okay. And then one of the questions I wanted to ask was, can you explain a little bit more about the piece that you're working on for the International Community Day?
Right. Okay. So the International Community Day, that's part of the city government, Barcelona city government. They organize it every year. I participated one year as like a pre-presenter, as a guest, one of the guest sponsors or guest ambassadors, like right at the beginning. And they called me this year in order to create a special image because they celebrated their 10th anniversary, which I think I have right here. I do.
There it is.
So in a way, in this piece, I wanted to do like a number of different things. I mean, obviously, if you look at it in detail, it's like, it's a pattern. It's very vibrant. It's very colorful. It's something that if you put it on a T-shirt, you're going to like it, which, by the way, the first 200 people there are free T-shirts. And then the second thing is it's also a homage. It's a homage to Milton Glaser, one of my idols. Milton Glaser recently passed away. He was probably one of the icons of graphic design in the world. And he was also the author of probably the most plagiarized logotype of the world, which is I Love New York.
I understand that. Okay. And how can people obtain a piece of this beautiful work that you're on?
Of this particular piece,
Yeah.
if they go to the Barcelona Community Welcome Day on Saturday, which I'll also be giving a short lecture on at one point, if they go there, I think they get one free for this, the lamina and the postcard. So I think that's included to visitors. And then the T-shirts, I think there's only 200, and it's the first 200 people that walk in.
Oh, so I got to go early and get it.
Well, you might be like enchufado. I don't know, but we'll see. I haven't got one yet, so
I don't have one. I'm always pushing them.
There'll be one left over.
And then actually, the last time that we spoke, you had mentioned that something about Metropolitan. I was hoping that maybe you can share a little bit more about maybe how Metropolitan has influenced you, or how do you know the magazine?
I was actually really funny because this morning, knowing that I was going to do this interview, I found like an old press clipping book in which Philip Stanton with hair was on the front cover. It's kind of shiny. Sorry that it's got this reflex. And this was from 2002. That's my old studio. So, you know, I knew Richard, the retired owner, and you know, I was always really happy that there was a magazine in English about Barcelona, because when I got here, nobody spoke English. I mean, the taxi drivers and English teachers were literally the only people that spoke English. So you really, you know, it was you know, throw you in the pool and start to learn, you know. Nowadays, you know, even my students, I mean, I can give my class in English basically, and almost everybody will understand everything. So I think that's changed a lot, and probably Metropolitan has helped that a little bit along the way. And I think that one of the things that I like, especially like the new Metropolitan, for me, the revamped Metropolitan, or the Metropolitan that I know now and that's online, is that I mean, it still has that kind of quirky sense of humor within a lot of the articles. You know, there's like a kind of play, and there's some tongue in cheek. It's not completely serious and, you know, staid and stiff, but you guys do give a lot of information of things which even some of the media here forget about or ignore or don't cover, and I think that's interesting.
Well, I'm glad that you pointed out, because we do try to go out there and bring back that feeling of what it is like to come to Barcelona and have a new perspective. And it's sometimes hard to remember, because we use this in the in-house, this term called appalancated. So you kind of get used to where you're going and the bars and the restaurants and the places you like to go. But if you're a new person in, sometimes you start to learn more about the city than some people who've been around a long time, because the city evolves at an amazing pace. And one of the things that I really like about Metropolitan is that we're committed to giving visibility to lots of the culture that's taking place. And, you know, I really wanted to congratulate you on the work. I love the piece that you've done for the International Community Day. But also, you had mentioned working with some of your students.
Yeah, I was just about to say exactly that. You know, and it's funny because it's building on a little bit what you just talked about here. You know, I head and teach a postgraduate program in ENA called Ilustración Creativa, Creative Illustration. And we're on our 24th year. And in those 24 years, we've had like a lot of very, very famous artist illustrators come out of the program. So we have like a very illustrious list of ex-alumni. But one of the things that they always have to do with me in my classes at the beginning of the year, which is about, you know, it's a press illustration for press, is do a reportage piece. So they actually have to go out, find a story, illustrate the story, and write a small text to go with it, which covers 8 pages of a a fictitious magazine, or actually a real magazine, because we do it for you guys and you don't know it. But I let them a lot of freedom, so it's like they don't have to necessarily work in the format of the magazine itself and whatever. And what's really interesting most times is that the people that come from outside, because I would say about 80% of our students come from outside of Spain. So,
Wow.
especially Latin America, but also Europe. This year we have a girl from Turkey, from Italy, Guatemala, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Mexico. So a lot of times the people that are coming from outside are the ones that have the freshest eyes. They're the ones that see things in a new way, because everything is, new and interesting and fun. And so they have a way of using that naivete, that sense of, wow, everything is interesting. And that comes through, even when they're like doing things like, last year there was a girl from Chile that did a piece about a restaurant, a Chilean restaurant in Barcelona. But her way of comparing things of like, what's the difference in Chile? What's the difference of here? Or, the slang and whatever. It was really, really fun. So that's, I think, one of the things that people that come from outside have a way of having a fresher vision. They're not jaded or apalancado, right?
On that point, I always make the I frequently talk about the fact that when I first got here, which is 96, you're one of the few Americans who I know who's been here longer than I have.
Yeah.
I believe the population of non-Spain based residents was just under 1%.
Wow.
And as we celebrate Barcelona National Community Day, I believe the commissioner was talking about, we now have almost 30% of the population now originates from another country. And I want to see if you have any thoughts on how the city has absorbed this culture and this change of demographics.
Well, that's a complicated question. I have to say, I love Barcelona. I really do. But, and I'm happy that there are new voices and new energy and new visions and new focuses and new ways of thinking and new people from other countries. I think that mixing pot, or that melting pot, that mix of, people from here, people from outside, people, that's a really, really positive thing. The thing that I'm less thrilled about is that how expensive the city has gotten. And how, like when I got here, my first apartment was 30,000 pesetas, which was like 120 euros for, I don't know, 100 meters. It was like one of those long apartments in Le Champlain, it's like, and obviously that has to change. That you can't, it's not going to stay like that forever, especially if there's more and more people that want to come and want to be part of that, the Barcelona experience, or contribute to making Barcelona a more interesting place. But yeah, I do have a feeling like we've kind of maybe gone too far in the wrong direction, in the sense that, nowadays they're renting one room in a shared apartment. I've got students that are living in apartments of like 12 people, where they have one room and they're paying, 600 euros for a room. And that's, yeah, I don't know. That seems to me like that something there is not right. It can't be that a young couple in their 20s literally can't rent an apartment in Barcelona because their combined salaries aren't enough for the real estate company or the real estate agent to actually even let them go and look at it.
Right.
There's something wrong there.
That's got to affect the talent of aspiring artists that want to come here and love the culture, love the energy, but can't afford to live here on a reasonably.
Well, obviously Barcelona, it's weird. Barcelona has a big talent pool. Yesterday I was talking with a girl who's French, who's an architect, and she works in a firm here that's in Barcelona, and almost 90% of their work is for France. So the talent is here, but the jobs that they're working on are outside. So that's a good thing. I think the fact that talent wants to come and live in Barcelona, because Barcelona is, I mean, Barcelona, like all cities, has its ups and downs. It has its goods and bads. I mean, but obviously it's a feeling. It's a city where generally you feel very safe. You don't feel like anybody's going to pull out a gun in a supermarket. You don't feel like, you know, you're in danger. At least if you're not in like a very shady neighborhood at the wrong time of night, in the wrong state of inebriation. You know, it's a safe city. It's a city that's got a great climate. It's a city that's got mountains close by. It's a city that's got the sea right at the feet of it. I mean, when I got here, Barcelona didn't have beaches. There were no beaches. One of my main first jobs as an illustrator was working on the campaign of the newly reopened Barcelona beaches, because Barcelona, the beaches were separated by a train line. So you actually couldn't get to the beach. So there was no beach. It was just a rocky front. So that whole rehabilitation of that area, which was during the Maragall years and like the pre-Olympic years, I mean, that's a major change. Barcelona's gone through some really very positive major change. When I got here, there was no Ronda de Dalt. There was no rondas. So, I mean, the traffic was like, 5 times worse than it is now.
No, I can't imagine the city without the rondas or the tunnels.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like so what I want to say is that it's good that Barcelona goes through changes. It's good that those changes are consensuated between all of the people involved, that they're not like set from on above and now it's going to be this and now it's going to be that. It's good that those things are talked about and negotiated and bargained for. Yeah, I mean, it's like it seems to me that somehow or another there needs to be a way that we can recover giving more opportunities for young people to actually come here and work and live.
Excellent. Well, on that note, if there's anything else that you'd like to share, this is a great time. And I'd like to take the moment to really thank you for sharing this. And I'd love to come to one of your classes and or your studios and figure a way for Metropolitan and Philip Stanton's work of art to get to know each other.
Whenever you want, I will give you guys something to use in the magazine. So I mean, that would be great. I mean, I would say, like, the last thing I would just say, if anybody wants to follow me on Instagram, I think I've got the thing there, Philip Stanton Studio. There's a website you can go to and check out. The classes that I teach are in EINA, EINA, and also BAU, BAU, which are both universities which are connected with other major universities. And thank you so much for having me, and congratulations for the good work that you guys are doing. It's an honor to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and I hope to see you on Saturday, and Saturday 28th for the Barcelona International Community Day 10th edition. So I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, Philip, and we will be in touch soon. I'm going to follow up on that, to take you up on that offer to do something together.
Please do.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.